do think it's funny that it's like a dead-on profile for me because this is what I would look like if I were a president and you had my face on money.
You've got the sideburns to be like a founding father on our money. Yeah, it is more profile for you. You know, we gotta have
the sideburns, none of the racism. Hopefully,
that's good. Yes, please keep that up.
Yeah, I'm founding father 2.0.
I like that Harriet Tubman's finally gonna get on the 20.
Is she really?
Well, I mean, they delayed it. Or is it the 10 or the 20? I thought
it was going to be the 20 because Andrew Jackson's
exactly.
on the 20.
Yeah.
Worst guy for the 20. What really bums me out about Andrew Jackson is that he got his whole reputation as a war hero in the War of 1812, which was that time we tried to steal Canada and failed.
Oh. I clearly don't remember my history because all I was thinking was like, why would we steal Canada?
Yeah,
they're so nice.
We tried to annex it. Like within the first 50 years of being an independent country, after having what's the word I'm looking for? Reconciled a lot of our beef with the UK. The first thing we tried to do is steal Canada. Annex, colonize, whatever. It didn't work out, and it's one of our many stalemates in war history.
I don't remember the point of any of the wars that our nation has ever fought.
Expansion. Literally. Except for like World Wars 1 and 2.
Right, like the ones we helped down in, I remember what those were for. But, I mean, literally in Texas, like they didn't tell us that we lost the Battle of the Alamo. They just...
That's the whole point.
I know.
The whole point is that we lost.
I might have just not been paying attention.
I know they definitely didn't tell us that it was, or they told us, but they didn't focus on the fact that that entire revolution was because of slavery.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Oops.
Anyways. You want to start this podcast?
Yeah, let's start this podcast. Hello and welcome to Everything's Bigger.
A podcast about masculinity for dudes of all genders who ask why.
It's like when you're watching, especially like superhero movies, and you think you're going into a movie about Iron Man, then you get all these little callbacks, like so-and-so was a villain in this issue back in the 1960s. And if you look really closely at this costume, you can see that it references this other character. And the actor who played this role was actually cast during this role in the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon, and yada, yada, yada. Essentially, what we do here is we look at all these Easter eggs in our culture and our ways that we experience society and see how everything is connecting to one another, even if we don't even realize what's going on.
Oh man, those are my favorite kinds of movies, which is should not be unexpected, being as this is the podcast that we are hosting. Anyways, I'm Jackson Bird.
And I'm Bo Méndez.
And today we are going to be talking about International Men's Day and all of the complexities associated therein.
It had to come up at some point.
I mean,
might as well do it early.
It had to come up, but like neither of us actually knew it existed.
Yeah, it was a weird kind of surprise. It was like, it was like. Sometimes when you get stuff in the mail that you're not expecting, but it's not entirely unpleasant, but you kind of wonder how they got your address.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
used to get like zoo book type things when I was a kid. And
you never signed up for those?
No, or not that maybe my parents did, but I remember getting one. It was a whole binder full of like animal facts. And I was like, this is super cool, but who knew to send this to me?
I love that your reference point was zoo books in the early 90s when like this happens every day to me via email. Like always on some email list that I'm like, how did I get on here? I guess most of the time it's annoying, but sometimes every now and then it's like
a coupon.
A coupon. Wait, you say coupon?
I specifically put effort into saying coupon because I find it.
Is that okay? I was gonna say, is that how they say it up here?
No.
We're in New York City, but we both grew up in Texas.
Right,
and
where it is coupon, damn it.
Coupon, yeah.
We fought long and hard to add extra syllables into words that are normally only 2 syllables long.
And I honestly, there are many words that I make a conscious effort not to have like a Southern accent with when I'm up here.
See, I make a conscious effort to have an accent on some because as soon as I mention that I'm from Texas, people are like, well, where's your accent? And I'm just like, well, I'll tell you what, it pops up when I've been drinking or when I tell stories about hunting or fishing.
Did you go hunting that much?
I went hunting precisely once.
Ah, okay.
I did go fishing.
I didn't think
times.
So.
No, but one of my friends is a big hunter, and I noticed that like we were from the same spot, so he doesn't really have a pronounced accent either. But if he's had a couple of beers and he talks about that one time that he went hunting and he saw like a perfect, oh man, you gotta experience how big this pig was, man. It was the biggest pig I ever, a huge hog, and it's like it just comes out, and it's like, wow, okay, we were in all of like the same classes, and I never heard you talk like this.
Wow.
Hunting and fishing.
Well, I mean, that makes sense. The two of us were in Tennessee recently with one of our friends who grew up there, and her accent came back so strong while we were there.
That was bizarre.
Mine was coming back a little too, which was weird because it's a different accent.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mine just come back mine has, the one that I never had has just come out. And I think it's because I'm trying to hold on to some sort of form of Texan identity.
yeah, I mean, that's probably true. Although I have also noticed my friends and family who live in Texas that I don't think had Southern accents when we were all growing up now do. And I wonder if it just happens with age, because I remember growing up and I was like, no one around me has a Southern accent except really old teachers.
Yeah, and that's just what everyone sounds like, so you kind of tune it out.
Yeah.
And then you move somewhere where you don't hear it as often, or you end up in a scenario where you're hearing a bunch of different accents, and then you realize oh, never mind. No, we did have a certain tune.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, definitely certain words like bet, set, get.
Yes. There's one that I can't do, but it's my
Get.
favorite one, and it's the one that my wife's grandma had, and also Johnny Cash had it, despite the fact that Johnny Cash is not from Texas, but
Nope.
he spent some time in Texas. But it's on words like thought and bought. There's a little whoop in it, like bout.
Oh yeah, bought.
Yeah. Yeah, or I saw him, and I can't even do it.
You're getting into almost Southern Belle.
Yeah, but it's so folksy, and it's just so wonderful to hear it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Anyway.
actually pretty bad at doing a Southern accent, I guess.
Yeah, when I put on one, I don't even know what accent I'm doing. I've had people be like, "Where the hell do you think that you're from when you do this?" I was like, I don't know. I'm just trying to sound drawly.
Oh yeah, that's bad. Oh. Notice I'm not even trying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make fun of you and then not put myself out there.
No, it's like an intentionally exaggerated situation, though. Yes, I'm going to sound like I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, on this street and this street. I'm going to have a very precise accent. No, it's just a general blanket.
I said Fort Worth because that's where I'm from.
Well, I was actually about to say Grapevine, just because Grapevine is the most Texan name that I can think of for a town.
Really?
Grapevine.
I get
It's either
Grapevine.
that or Amarillo.
Amarillo, yeah.
Yeah,
Amarillo.
it should be, but that's another thing.
I'm trying to remember if my step family pronounces it Amarillo because they're all Mexican.
I
They all,
just never
speak
said it.
Spanish.
I felt super weird because I would be like, yeah, I've never been to Amarillo. And
Oh wait,
people
they're
would be
from
like,
El Paso, not Amarillo. That's what, I always get those two mixed up, which is ridiculous because they are in two different parts of the state. What we have learned so far on this podcast is I don't know history or geography. I know nothing.
Don't know about geography. That's a song, right? I should know that.
Is it? I think it's not geography. It's don't
No,
know
I
anything.
was just
Oh yeah,
plugging
but it
that
is.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, at the time of this recording, it's late-ish November. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. The oven isn't preheating, but the turkey is thawing. That gives you an idea of when we are. And to my surprise, International Men's Day happened, which I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either.
And we're recording this in this podcast about exploring masculinity and talking about what it is to be a man and all these other man-related, masculine-related topics right in the wake of International Men's Day. So I feel like we'd be doing ourselves and the show a disservice by not acknowledging the elephant in the room, that is International Men's Day, a thing that exists apparently.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think why it's so ripe for the picking for this podcast is that I don't think either of us know how to feel about it.
Yeah, I've got,
or at least went through an evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were talking before, and I think we had a similar thing. So I'll speak from my perspective. I think you had a similar experience of I think I saw it trending on Twitter, and I was like, oh, come on. I assumed it was another straight parade kind of deal, you know, where I thought, I didn't think it was actually happening, or maybe it was, but, it wasn't, not many people were following it. I thought it was totally just, dudes saying, oh, there's International Women's Day. Why don't we have an International Men's Day?
Mm-hmm.
And then slowly throughout the day, I started seeing people I respected of all genders, posting things about it. Mostly good things.
Yeah.
And I actually was kind of moved and slightly converted around to the idea of it by the end of the day.
Yeah. I had a similar experience where I just saw that it was maybe a tweet or two, and I was like, oh, okay, so apparently that's a thing. I don't know if people are trying to make it a thing or if it already is a thing, but I've got work to do, and I probably shouldn't be on Twitter, so I went away from it. And then I saw another one of my friends, and this kind of encapsulated how I felt about it. he was gonna go to a concert, and he was like, "All right, I'm waiting for the show to start, and I've already been drinking, and apparently it's International Men's Day, and I'm just waiting for some motherfucker to complain about all the rights that women have that they had to fight for that men have had the entire time, and just moan about it and make a big deal out of it and that sort of thing." And I was like, "Oh yeah, is this what International Men's Day is?" So then I went down the rabbit hole, and it turns out that it's kind of not that, but I think it's worth acknowledging that like every year when March 8th, which is International Women's Day, or just the entire, month of March, Women's History Month, or the birth of any, noteworthy woman, or maybe even just like a non-cis person, non-masculine person, I should say, non-cis masculine person, like their birthday or some sort of day of acknowledgement of them rolls around, there's always this like cadre, is that how you say that word, of men's rights activists that are just like bemoaning the fact that, oh, no one wants to give us attention though.
Yep.
And I thought that it was part of that, and so it was heartening to find out that it's actually not.
Yeah, I mean, real quick before you dive into the history, as I assume you're about to do because you are Bo Méndez, I do feel like that's one of the issues sort of with it. I mean, issues that I have with it is, I keep trying to compare it to kind of Father's Day, which we've got Mother's Day and we've got Father's Day. And they were started about around the same time, at least in our modern versions of them here in the U.S. And I don't feel like there's usually any like controversy around that. It's like, yeah, there's a Mother's Day and there's a Father's Day. I mean, I'm sure some non-binary parents would wish there was a Parents' Day, but
right. Or people who like that's not part of their life. They just don't
parents. Don't have mothers, don't have fathers, have
or
bad relationships with their mothers or fathers.
Who don't want to be, but no, even more resonant probably are the people who have those complicated relationships.
Yeah.
Lacks thereof.
Absolutely. But what I meant is in terms of, MRAs coming out of the gate or something like that. Like Father's Day is just Father's Day, you know? But this one, it just like, I feel like because we hear from those types of dudes so often in all these other examples that you pointed out, it almost ruins the good sides of this day because it's gotten tainted. And I'm sure the organizers and, the people who originally founded it are probably frustrated by that as well, because it's like it should just be any other day, but because it's put in contrast with all of these other things, and because you've got all these annoying dudes like constantly whining around every other day, I don't know. I guess that's one thing that I'm stuck on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy for something like that to pivot into that kind of like reactionary mindset. But when you like think about how, any day of observation can be kind of what you make of it. And so I think that is why, as I went down the rabbit hole, and again, like this is always happening on social media just because that's where I am a lot of the day. And I saw people taking International Men's Day as an opportunity to like, lift up a male role model or talk about an issue that is facing a male or masculine identifying person in their life and kind of like use that as an opportunity to amplify it. It was actually a little bit more, a lot more introspective than I expected it to be, and sometimes even a little bit more introspective than other like days of blank can be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're just celebratory. But other times they're kind of mobilized as like, here's the difficult issue that we have to talk about, and this is our gateway into it.
Yeah, I do wonder if did you personally see any like non-binary people celebrating International Men's Day at all?
I didn't see non-binary people. I did see female identifying people. They were celebrating friends, or spouses, or fathers, or whoever. And I thought that was kind of nice. It also kind of struck me as like, well, here you are having to do the emotional labor again to make us men feel nice about ourselves.
Oh, that's a good point.
But at the same time, it didn't seem prompted. Like nobody was tweeting about it being like, my husband reminded me that today was International Men's Day, so I'm going to talk about how he's an all right kind of okay guy. It was like actual good stuff.
Yeah, well, that does remind me of one tweet that I saw from a woman who posted the whole thing about like, here are the things that men struggle with, and this is a great day to talk about those things. And then like the first reply was from some dude being like, yeah, but earlier today you said this thing that was like kind of mean about men, and so this negates what you said. And I was just like, oh man, like she did the thing. She threw you a bone there.
And that's kind of the toxic element of any of these things when it comes to men wanting recognition or wanting something that recognizes them is that it can so easily veer into this like underlying feeling of victimhood that more toxic elements of masculine communities kind of cultivate. This idea that, you know, it should be us. What about us? And I don't know what else to say about it than that sucks.
Yeah. I want to go back to the reason I asked about the non-binary thing was because I just, you know, okay, I didn't know we had International Men's Day before. When we just had International Women's Day, it was kind of like women have been fighting for so many things for so long, and it makes sense to have a day, especially because International Women's Day also often talks about sexual assault. It talks about girls' education around the globe, like a lot of issues that still, like, women do not have equal rights on. And then you throw in the International Men's Day, and at that point, it's like, well, now we've got the gender binary, and like the two main genders have got the international days.
Oh yes,
can't we? It's like can't now we need another day to be like for non-binary plus people,
right?
But also just to say that, like, I think probably this day was fully for like male identifying people and not like any non-binary people were probably celebrating, but. I don't know. That's just me thinking.
I mean, I think that my window into those communities might be a little bit smaller than it could be.
Understatement.
Well, you know,
like you're saying compared to me.
I'm comparing just in general.
Yeah.
You know, I think we got into this a little bit in one of the other episodes that we recorded, but like one of the things when I was taking like anthro courses that it was really hard for me to understand was this idea of gender as a social construct and this idea of like gender performance, and that there could be people who might feel masculine one day and might feel feminine the other day and might feel neither all days.
Oh my God, a bigender person whose like gender could line up for each of the days.
Yeah. I mean,
that'd be great.
If that person is out there and if they're listening, good for you.
Yeah.
Take all the days.
Definitely know some trans parents who take both Mother's and Father's Day, and I'm like, yeah, go for it.
And so I feel like I just maybe don't know enough people that are talking about that sort of thing to have seen it. I hope that there are people who, you know, if they're non-conforming or non-binary, but like they like acknowledging the masculine side of their personality, if there is one. I feel like International Men's Day should be for them too. Yeah,
I mean, I think it totally should. I was just wondering, like, if anyone would feel welcome, and I think probably based on the little bit I've read about International Men's Day, I don't think that's something any of the founders were probably thinking of in the early 90s. But maybe.
I mean, so just from like a cursory look at it, it was kind of spearheaded by a professor who was teaching in Trinidad and Tobago, which was the first thing that I was like, oh, interesting about.
Yeah. I definitely assumed it was a much more recent, like, U.S. thing.
Yeah. It started in the early 1990s, and there have been, like, efforts to make an International Men's Day for probably as long as there are efforts to make an International Blank Day of any other sort.
Right. And International Women's Day started in the early 1900s, right? I did a lot of research on Mother's and Father's Day today. I went on a tangent, so I'm mixing up the dates. But.
I probably should have looked that up. But yeah, I know that it's like, you know, fairly recent, but not as recent as I thought it was. I thought it was like something that was born and bred in like a Reddit subreddit somewhere or something like that.
Says a lot about us of all these assumptions we made about it.
Yeah, we should do an episode on just our own assumptions. But what was heartening about it is that even at its earliest stages, the goal of International Men's Day is to promote gender is to promote gender equality and to tear down stereotyping, which I really liked. It also, and I am reading this stuff off because I can't remember all of it, but it's worth mentioning. It's meant to be inclusive of men and boys, people who identify as men and boys, of any age, ability, social background, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity. Basically, if you can put any of those things and then be like, man or boy or masculine person, it's supposed to be for you. It's supposed to promote positive male role models, and it's supposed to highlight positive contributions that men and male-identifying people, masculine-identifying people, have made throughout history. But what I saw a lot recently, and what I think is really nice about, again, like a day is what you make of it, is that where it could have been co-opted by the straight pride parade types or the Proud Boys or some bullshit like that, And maybe parts of it have. That's not to say it hasn't. I'm sure maybe there's an International Men's Day frat party that goes down that I don't know about.
I mean, I am sure
Yeah.
that the frats out there that know about it do some type of party.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I mean frat in like the. Actually, I don't have to clarify.
Did you mean more general? Because I was thinking actual frat houses.
No, I was thinking frat houses, but I know that a lot of fraternities, just like a lot of sororities, do engage in like charity work, and like they're not inherently bad.
No,
but I'm
they're
talking
not,
about
no.
specifically bad ones.
Oh,
But
okay,
I
okay.
probably shouldn't have.
I was just
make
thinking
that
of
weird
fun
clarification.
parties.
Yeah. No, I mean like there's probably a group of knuckle dragging bro dudes who get together to like be men.
Yeah.
And do whatever toxic behavior that they think includes being a man on International Men's Day. But we're not talking about that.
No, but we should talk about some of the memes that you saw later.
The memes.
There's some Twitter posts you mentioned that were like just what we might say are not great examples of being men on International Men's Day.
Yeah. We'll get there.
We can share some of those on our Instagram. At Biggers Pod. Bigger
Pod.
Pod. I don't even know our freaking Instagram.
But it's also, people were using it as a chance to talk about issues facing masculine people, but also talk about the reinvention of masculine spaces, which I'm like totally about. Like we're at an era, and I suppose history is long, and there's probably been lots of eras where people have been like, what does it mean to be a man? But I feel like that's amplified so much now, which is why we're even doing this podcast, that there is discourse surrounding International Men's Day that says, how can we make people who are masculine identifying, who maybe their journey through life has been a little bit different than your, random cishet dude that you pick off the street or something like that. How do we make people whose experiences have been different than that feel welcome and included on this day?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, how are we like checking in on each other?
So I wanted to talk about what you mentioned of men who have like a different journey of getting there. Basically, men of trans experience or masculine people or what have you, because I saw a couple of trans guys posting on International Men's Day, and that's what kind of first started changing my mind about it, because before I would still just been thinking it was, like a stupid fake holiday or something, or like even when I saw it was kind of real, I still wasn't totally on board. But when I saw like trans guys posting about how important it was to them to be men and be perceived as men in this world, and how hard it was for them to get there, it actually reminded me a lot about what we talk about on this podcast of just like, there's a lot of complexities to masculinity, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now where we don't necessarily want to say that we're like proud to be men sometimes. But there is still like so much, I guess, almost to say like worth fighting for. That's making it sound kind of sappy, but
I think that's a good way to go. Like, don't be afraid to be sappy about it.
Yeah, well, I it's not so much sappy as like, I don't want to say there's like a fight, because I think that makes it sound too much like what people who are not cis men or who are not men are like fighting for legitimately.
Right. It's not like people are denying us our rights.
Yeah, exactly. So like for trans men, it's like, I think there's the side of, you went through so much, and to be the man you are today, that's like a big deal. But then there's also the side of things of wanting to sort of deconstruct masculinity and allow men to be vulnerable and express emotions, and how we can be proud in that too. And that was kind of the stuff where I would like to say erroneously said fighting for, but I think that's like what we need to push for. And I like, that's the side of this that I like about International Men's Day, is if it can be an opportunity to talk about mental health, to talk about connecting with your emotions, to talk about the strength in being vulnerable.
Yes. And that's actually what got me too, was that I saw that's when I saw a couple of people posting that were like husband or SO or boyfriend appreciation posts and tagging it International Men's Day, like, I just want to raise up my king, that sort of thing. And it's just like, okay, good for you.
Man Crush Monday.
Yeah, that's sort of thing. But then I saw other people talking about mental health was a big one. And there's like, so someone posted this thing that was actually in the London Tube, which says, sad lads, broken blokes, unhappy chappies, geezers who need a breather, don't feel the pressure to, quote, man up. It's all right for boys and men to cry. And I thought that I really liked that. That's and other things that kind of played to that tune. of reminding men on International Men's Day to check in on themselves, to check in on their mental state. It's okay to not be okay type stuff, to be vulnerable, to reach out to people, to talk to people, and then from there you see other people who have been talking about the reality of like self-harm, depression, suicide in men. And from there, you go from the issue of mental health to the issue of your overall physical health. And people, it was noted when I was reading up on it that International Men's Day, of course, coincides with Movember, No Shave November, in the middle of November, and so that's like this big call for people to to check on their physical health and be open about any sort of struggles that are going on about that, and to try and support other men that are going through situations like that. And so overall, I've seen it as, I guess, a net positive is what I'm trying to say.
I think so.
Only if we keep on steering it this way.
Yeah.
I think it's up to people who kind of believe in this. It's difficult to articulate this version of masculinity that I think you and I are both kind of like orbiting around. This idea where, like, yeah, we want to be proud to be men, but we want to be proud to be men who are focused on improving themselves and also improving redefining and improving what it is to be a man in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that we can't articulate it is the point of this podcast in some ways. Is like, it's like we're both like fixated on that idea but cannot articulate it at all. So instead we're just going to keep making podcasts until we can figure out how to say that.
Keep unpacking it and keep overthinking it. I mean, to be honest, I kind of don't want to articulate it. That's sort of the beauty about it, is that if you can boil it down to a single sentence or a single definition, then that means that you're kind of flattening it out. And sure, it would be nice to understand it a little bit better, but as I've learned about the history of race in America, the history of sex in America, the history of gender in America, and all these other things. And I keep on saying in America because so much of like the scholarship that I read, or even just like people's opinions, are from American sources. That's the whole world is an even bigger can of worms. But the more that I read about it, about these social topics, the more I realize that it's almost better that they're not simple. Like when people try to simplify it, that's when oppression is at its easiest. Because like there's nothing simpler than being like there's an us and there's a them. Yeah, that's very simple. And as soon as you start unpacking any concept, you leave all this room for things to be different and to be messier and to be more complex. And if you're okay with that, then you're, I guess, more likely to be okay with other people.
Yeah,
in a way.
Yeah, I guess I'm still kind of digesting all that you said, but I mostly agree. I think I agree. I mean, I definitely think that questions are way more interesting and in many ways more, I guess, educating than answers. I think questions can sometimes provide more of an answer than answers can, or if not an answer, just more insight. So I think the constant investigation is very worthwhile.
So we've been bad men in not realizing that we had a day this whole time.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
I don't really. I could have noticed in 5 years and been fine.
That's in big old air quotes. But now that we both know, like, what does observing? I mean, I guess I'm not saying like I'm going to start observing this every year, but like the fact that we're both a little bit more aware of that it exists and what it could stand for, what it has stood for. What do we kind of hope for it to be?
I mean, I think I hope for it to be sort of what we were discussing of an opportunity to talk about the issues that men do face, because I think, men can sometimes get lost in the shuffle, but when I say that, like, I want there to be a giant sort of asterisk, not even an asterisk, but I think what I would like to see of International Men's Day is that, like, honestly, you can't talk about a lot of the problems men face without talking about the problems that women face, and the fact that most of the problems men face are also caused by the patriarchy, and like the entire system of men being in power has kind of caused our own destruction. Like the various gender roles of the household or in business or emotions that you are allowed to express as a child. Like all of that is rooted in like men have to be men and women have to be women and they have to be subjugated and men must be powerful. And like, you know, this is what has always annoyed me about men's rights activists is a lot of what they are mad about. Like the fact that women are usually presumed to get custody in divorce cases and things like that. It's like a lot of that is feminism. You're mad at feminists, but like you are asking for feminism.
Yeah.
And so I think that International Men's Day, as much as we hope it is a net positive in getting to talk about a lot of the very real issues that men do face and that need to be talked about a lot more, like it can't do that at the sake of like not mentioning International Women's Day and how women are a part of that. Like I saw a couple of graphics that were just like this percentage of men face XYZ, and I was like, yeah, but this just you're taking it out of the context and like the bigger picture, and it's sort of weird to present that without talking about like the percentage of women that face that same thing or like why men do. Like we definitely need to talk about these things a lot more, but I don't know. I'm going in circles.
No, I kind of get what you're saying. Like so a common gripe that I see when I'm, I don't know, feeling self-loathing and I wander onto like an MRA forum or something like that is that, you know, women have it easy because men are expected to be the providers. You know, I hope you can hear the air quotes here. and it turns into this big lament of, oh, men have to lament about like, oh, men have to do all the work and they have to be the breadwinner and they have to hold the family together and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is that, much like you're saying, the people who are making these complaints and turning their masculinity into a burden, this cross that they have to bear, that all the feminists are making heavier by demanding silly things like equality and blah, 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 they're turning their masculinity into a burden and not realizing that that burden was put there in the first place by the expectations of a patriarchal society.
Right.
Like, you know, there's nowhere in the rule book that says a dog can't play football, and there's nowhere in the Constitution or something like that that says that men have to provide for X, Y, and Z. That is a societal expectation that coagulated at some point early on in our history, and we just never shook it off. It's not to say that
a lot of people tried to.
Right. Well, yeah. But that's not to say that men shouldn't provide. But like, you don't have to view your role as a man in society as automatically swimming uphill.
Yeah.
You know,
that was swimming uphill. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean
swimming upstream.
swimming uphill is much harder.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a great line in the first Blade movie. It's the last line in the big battle, and I forgot that this was the line. Have you ever seen any of the Blades?
No, actually.
Wesley Snipes fights vampires. That's all you need to know.
You're actually talking Blade, not just like a cute nickname for Blade Runner.
No. I'm talking the movies, Blade. Before he defeats the big bad guy, he looks straight at the camera, and you're expecting something like, you know, finally my vengeance is mine, or, you know, this is for my family that you took from me, or something. His line is, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. That's his line.
Ice skate uphill.
But it works so well in this context, is that there is an entire swath of masculine identifying people that consider their own masculinity, their own experience to be something that is burdensome.
I would edit in that case, men. I wouldn't do the umbrella term in that particular case because I don't think
I'm trying to cover all the bases. But
yeah, I mean, you know,
right.
maybe there's a misogynistic person out there who doesn't fully identify as a man. Who knows?
Well, I mean, it's these deeply entrenched things, so there probably is.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of trans men are super misogynistic, which it just kind of blows my mind. It's totally a thing. Yeah. But going back to your original point, I mean, yeah, I think there are like very real effects that have happened because like men are, you know, the gender role is to be the provider, and you know, there's all kinds of like pressures that men face that no, we don't talk about enough, but that's not a reason to hate women or to blame it on women or to say that like anti-feminism is the answer, you know?
Exactly. Like what would be more, I don't know, healing for everybody all around is instead of aspiring to find the person or persons to blame, is rather look at the trends throughout history that have made the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of the thing. It's like
War of 1812.
fucking War of 1812, man.
That's the one that did
it. Actually, the War of 1812 did give us a lot of like weird stuff that ties directly into the Civil War. And all sorts of other American tragedies. But that's for another episode,
Right?
But no, I can't think of the metaphor. The metaphor is not there, but it's just people being. I guess it's like seeing the trees, but not the forest, or whatever.
Seeing the forest for the tree. Wow, we are on a roll with cliches tonight.
Malapropisms and cliches. Essentially, what I'm saying is that when these sorts of things turn toxic, it's because men are upset about what they view their lot in life is, and they want someone to blame for it without recognizing the overarching historical trends that have made circumstances and patterns and scenarios, as opposed to it's somebody or some people who are trying to take my rights away from me. It's more of just like there's a system that has been in place that is insidious and pervasive and affects so many aspects of your daily life that is inherently oppressive, and eventually it reflects back. Like for the largest part, a white supremacist, rampantly capitalistic patriarchy is oppressive for people of color and poor people and women and that sort of stuff. But it is also reflexively oppressive. It means that anybody who has an iota of power views that power as constantly under threat, or it's like it's again, burden is the word that keeps on coming to mind. Is like it's like oh no, why do I have so many responsibilities? And it's like, well, because this system that you're propping up gave them to you, and you could be dividing these responsibilities up among so many other people. You could be sharing all this power, but instead you're choosing to burden yourself with this role in society. You're playing into the system, and the system is playing you right back.
Yeah, and instead you could be a part of change. To take it back to what your question was, let's be uplifting and optimistic and talk about what we would like to see of this holiday. And instead, I decided I wasn't done complaining yet. So, listen, you got to get your emotions out.
There's a space for that. Your feelings are valid.
Yeah, and the space is podcasts. By the time this episode goes out, maybe this will be even less recent, so it's like a throwback at this point. But there was that SNL episode that David Harbour hosted SNL in the early fall, and there was like a digital short of he played a father with a son, and they're like having problems, and the commercial is like, here's how to solve your problems with your son, and it's like a podcast studio, like in a box, and they just show the two of them like talking about, their feelings and what they're going through in their lives, and like they're finally listening to each other. Podcasting.
I really just want my father to be proud of you.
So I think for like future International Men's Days, what I would like to see is I would like a world where every man has access to a podcast studio, so that they can truly talk about their emotions and share that time with one another.
Call the number flashing on your screen. For the price of a cup of nitrogenated cold brew, you can help give a podcast studio to a man in your life.
Highly recommend. But for real, what would you like to see? What would this holiday become?
So I'll tell you. I'll start off with, you mentioned like memes and such. So I'll definitely mention what I don't want to see, just because, like you said, this is a good space for complaints.
I don't know that. Did I say? Yeah, I did say it was a good space.
It is a space.
It's
for
a
space.
Yeah.
This is much like a recurring theme of all of this show is and will be. It's the tip of the iceberg moment, because I had some gripes with how branded social media was approaching International Men's Day, and it was kind of reinforcing this superficial idea of International Men's Day and what it is to be a man. So for probably, I guess this will be the third or fourth of easily 10 billion times that I'm going to bring up James Bond on this podcast.
One day I'll watch a single James. I've seen I think I saw Skyfall. No, I don't remember anything that happened.
You saw the damn ice car. You saw Die Another Day, which is not where you start off with James Bond.
No, that was not me.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't know what ice car is. That what Elon Musk released today?
That's the Cybertruck.
I said I wasn't going to date us on this episode.
Yeah,
Too bad.
true.
Cybertruck came out today.
Whatever.
Let's talk about bad examples of masculinity.
Jeez. Did you see the glass breaking?
No, I heard about it. I didn't watch it yet.
It's so funny because he's just like, well, it didn't break when we tested it. I don't know what's going on here,
Oh
but
my God.
whatever.
Oh,
Just had
man.
to kind of shuffle through. But anyway, so the James Bond branded Twitter account, their International Men's Day contribution was just a picture, like a little video montage of a couple of different Bonds. I feel like there were a couple of Craig scenes, and I love the Daniel Craig. I love all James Bonds. Maybe not George Lazenby. He was only in one movie. Nothing against him, but it was just like a little montage of James Bond like crashing a car into something, blowing something up, like wooing somebody, and drinking. And like, you know, I suppose in the context of James Bond movies, those are all good things. That's what you watch James Bond for. But the fact that they're feeling like, you know, this is our contribution to what it is to be a man. Explosions and martinis and womanizing.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I feel like the fact that James Bond is weighing in by making a montage of James Bond is saying James Bond is the ultimate man.
Exactly.
And everything James Bond does is what you should want to do as a man.
Exactly. So I would love to see less of that. And I think that is, like I said, a whole can of worms for like maybe brand Twitter doesn't have to weigh in on everything.
Yeah, right?
But I'd love to see less of like, you know, just kind of like this promotion of a narrow field of manliness and more encouragement of conversations between men of different experiences, especially whether that's racially, gender-related, socioeconomically, whatever. Men of different experiences talking about what it is to them to be a man, and so that way we can just really start to broaden that definition. Again, like when you start to flatten things, when you start to oversimplify things, you lose out on so much. And that's the beauty of being a masculine identifying person, is that there's no wrong way, there's no right way, there are just a bunch of ways.
I think it's the beauty of being human.
For those of y'all not watching the video portion, I just like broadly gestured at Jack for that. That was yes. Absolutely. I would say there's probably also maybe a couple of wrong ways to be a man and to be a human, but like, you know.
Yeah, you know, if you are hurting someone, but
Exactly.
it's
but the idea is that there's no single way.
there's no like defined way
Yes.
of this is what you must do to be a man.
And I would also like to see things that encourage men to check on themselves, whether that's mentally, physically, economically, to make them feel like they have the space to reach out to people for help, whether it's that they need to go see a doctor for any one of the many health problems that can plague men in disproportionate why can't I think of this word?
Amounts?
Amounts, I guess.
I don't know. You're probably going for a fancier word.
I was going for a fancy word. This is why you shouldn't try for fancy words, kids. They let you down. But yeah, any of a host of medical issues that face or plague men disproportionately. That's an easier way to say that. But also and to check on each other and to reinforce this notion that like men also need friendship and they also need companionship and they also need spaces to connect with people. I think that a lot of our media, a lot of our archetypes have kind of like championed this idea of the man as the rugged loner who is here to fix everything, receive no thanks, and has the weight of the world on his shoulders. But it's doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
And it would be a lot better for a lot of other people if it wasn't that way.
Yeah, I think I would also like to see a lot of sharing of narratives and uplifting the voices of men who are not white cis men, because I think a lot of the, especially the assumptions and the frustration that we've been expressing in this episode, we've mostly, I think, at least in my head, I've been envisioning like a white cis, like middle class, upper class dude. And there are so many men out there who are not at that pinnacle of privilege, who do have a lot of struggles based on their intersecting identities or positions in society, like what have you. And so I think I would like to hear from a lot more, just more diverse voices about all the different experiences out there. And like, even I think it'd be cool if, like it's a pretty common thing on like Thanksgiving or Christmas to go like volunteer in like various organizations, and that could be kind of a cool thing if that was associated with this, of like, more privileged dudes, like, I don't know, volunteering in like what was it, like Boys and Girls Clubs, like go with a kid or something,
or like a homeless shelter,
exactly,
or something like that.
yeah.
There's all sorts of different organizations that it would be nice to see the men turn out for, and also the people that are supporting the men that are turning out for them,
or at least donating. A big day for donating. Be a mini Giving Tuesday right before Giving Tuesday.
Man, 'tis the season. We're getting into it.
Yeah. Well, any last words on International Men's Day and or related topics before we move on?
I mean, we could probably keep on talking about this for a really long time, but I think that's going to be another recurring thing about this show, is that we could just keep on going on all these topics. But I think we capped it off. I just want to say to our men and masculine identifying people, check on yourselves, check on your friends, and sometimes when you have to, check yourself
before you wreck yourself.
Because one of the issues that comes up is like men's relationship to violence.
Yep.
And violent behavior, whether that's domestic or against themselves or just like in general. And so that's something that I didn't really bring up too much, and I feel like that's something that we could even get into I actually hope to get into on another episode, is just men and aggression.
Men and aggression and violence, but also I think the violence against themselves, that would be a episode with many content warnings ahead of time, but I think that could be a valuable discussion to have at some point.
Yeah, so just, nobody's alone in any of this.
Yeah, I like that. Well, and on that note, let's move on to Just the Tip. So Just the Tip is our opportunity. We get 1 minute each to express our emotions. As with this whole main topic today was about how men need to like express their emotions more often. So we get 1 minute each, once a month. That's it. We don't express our emotions any other time throughout the month.
Nope.
You can't do it outside the podcast studio.
Stoic like a rock.
And I say express your emotions. It's really just, it's shouting into the void. It can be happy, excited. It can be angry, frustrated, whatever it needs to be. I guess sad. We haven't gotten to sad yet, but it could be sad if you needed it to be sad. But anyway, Bo, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I think I want you to go first.
Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to pull up the timer then. Do you want to? You can time me.
Yeah.
If you want. All right. The volume is up all the way. You might just want to hold it close to the mic.
All right. So, just a tip in 3, 2, 1.
All right, so this might be a recurring thing, but I'm freaking out about the climate crisis, just in so many ways, but like these are just constant thoughts that are on my mind. One is that like I've got friends now who are saying that they don't want to have kids because they would feel guilty bringing a child into a world that is probably going to be gone before their child like grows up. Maybe before we even die. Like we could die from the climate crisis, like literally just the earth being gone. I don't even know. I don't know the science enough behind it. And I'm scared to learn more of the science because I think it would scare me more. But I also just think about like things in my everyday life that like I could be doing better or that won't exist in my future. Like I think about if I do have kids, which now I feel guilty about the fact that I want kids because what kind of world am I bringing them into? But like would I have to explain to them what seasons are? Because there probably won't be seasons in the way that we know them anymore when our kids are growing up. Or I think about the fact that I use too many paper towels. But if I wanted to use more towels, I would need a washer and dryer, which I don't have. But then at that point, am I using more water? And is that still being wasteful in some way? Oh, the time is definitely up, but there is no sound.
Beep.
I should have kept going. I should have claimed my time there.
Okay, that was good. That was good and terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
It's okay to be scared. That's what the podcast is here for. And we can talk about that more on a further episode. I was going to say issue. Man,
let's make a magazine.
Stuck in old media here.
Yeah, you really are today.
But there was let's write a telegram about it. There was an article.
Turn on the record players, Biden.
Yeah. There was an article that I saw a while ago, and not to keep on like harping. I know we're supposed to only give that a minute, but there's an interesting.
Yeah, this is your minute. I already started. No, I'm kidding.
No, you never share time. But there was an interesting article about how a lot of cis-het identifying men refuse to use reusable bags like tote bags.
Oh,
they think that it makes them look too feminine.
It's ridiculous.
And I was like, A, oops, I've done that, and B,
Yeah.
that's bullshit.
It's bullshit, but also like, yeah, like when I'm walking around the neighborhood, I will often like just grab a tote bag because I'm running errands or whatever, and I do feel like I'm gonna get made fun of. Like I feel less masculine holding a tote bag.
I make a point to do the dude grab on the tote bag.
Oh
where
God, I've done the
I
same.
don't put it on my shoulder.
Yep.
I loop it around my fist.
Yeah,
my
exactly.
clenched fist.
Yeah, and then
my tote bag.
And then other times I'm like, no, fuck you. Like I'm gonna wear it over my shoulder because that's the way it's meant to be done, and my shoulders are stronger than my biceps.
Yeah,
I can carry it better when it's on my shoulder. Oh, and I hate that I feel that, but I totally do.
It's real. It's real.
It's stupid.
It's real stupid. It's real dumb.
You know what we got to do?
What?
We got to invent the man reusable bag.
Yes.
Manly reusable bags.
With tactical stuff on it.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to have like
made out of Kevlar,
like grip, like rubber grip,
and,
something.
And, the strap is paracord for the inevitable moment where you're in like a plane crash and you need rope.
Yeah,
for something.
No, definitely.
Your stupid fucking rope, that sort of thing. Yeah. Ugh, it's like the man baby bags.
Oh.
Have you seen those?
No, but I do like I have seen just a lot of parents like getting nicer bags and like instead of like diaper bags that look like they're decorated for the baby who doesn't give a fuck. Get one that's actually matches the parents' aesthetic.
Yeah. And I see that, but what I've seen are specifically marketed as like there's one that I saw, its tagline was like ditch the girly baby bag, and it was like a camouflage, lots and lots of pockets for your grenades or whatever that you're taking along with your diapers.
I think they're bottles, though.
Yes. Your extra ammunition. Very, very, very hunting aesthetic. Anyway.
Well, it's one of those things that's like, it's similar to what we were talking about of like, it's finding a solution that is pointing in a good direction because that's encouraging. Hey, men are actually going to be carrying the baby bag and caring for the baby without mom there.
Yeah, change the diaper. Don't freak out.
Yeah, but it's still like, I don't love the way that we're solving that problem.
Yeah,
and the same with the reusable bags.
Yeah, but maybe that's the middle of the road. Maybe that's where you meet
baby
people.
step, perhaps.
I quit. All right, I'm kidding. I would never quit this. I love this. So.
Oh wait, I set the timer for 2 seconds. Okay, here we go.
Okay,
you ready?
Yes, ready.
3, 2, 1.
All right. Jack warned that we might get sad. I'm gonna get sad.
You're doing sad?
I'm doing sad. It's a good sad. I really miss David Bowie.
Oh no, man! I listened to Rebel on the way over here. I was already thinking this.
I don't even really know what I want to say, but it's so I saw Jojo Rabbit last night. Which first have you seen it?
No.
Oh, okay, well it's really good, and I won't give away too much spoilers. If you've seen the trailer, you already know that David Bowie is related because they use the German version of Heroes in the trailer. But it's used in the movie and in just such a wonderfully cathartic way. I saw it with my friend, and I was crying at that moment. And then after the movie ended, she like discreetly slid a tissue over to me, and I was like, "You don't have to be discreet about it. Like, I'm openly weeping in a movie theater because I miss David Bowie. Like, I'm cool with this. I'm okay with this." And so I guess maybe it's not sad. It's more of wistful. And yeah, David, if you're out there, we miss you. Nailed it.
That was good timing. Good timing. Oh, and now I'm sad. We should do a whole episode about crying.
We should.
Yeah.
We should also do a whole episode about David Bowie.
I would be so in. Whole episode of David Bowie. Oh, I miss David Bowie.
I think this is resonating with me so much because I obviously knew who he was, but I wasn't like a big David Bowie fan while he was alive.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, I've got the whole kind of like, damn it, I missed out. Like,
yeah.
There's a really great version. So David Bowie went on tour with 9 Inch Nails in the mid '90s, and there's a really great version of "Hurt," which of course I know from it being a Johnny Cash song, but I've come to like it as a 9 Inch Nails song as it originally was. But now there's another version that I saw relatively recently that's them on tour together, and David Bowie comes out and they duet it, and it's just like chills up and down the spine every time. It's magical. But anyway.
Yeah, you've had more than your 1 minute now.
Yeah, whatever.
It's your International Men's Day bonus.
It's my entitlement.
Oh,
Finally.
man. Yeah, exactly. That's what I don't want. I don't want International Men's Day to be all of the things men already get, but more of.
Yeah. No.
All right. We should end this episode soon. Do you have any last thoughts?
No, I'm really happy that we're doing this, that we keep on doing this. And as we release these things and continue to have these conversations, we kind of touched on it in the middle of the main topic discussion that we had here, that like I really look forward to further complicating this.
Yeah, let's complicate this shit up.
Let's really overthink it, because that honestly makes it more interesting to me.
I do have to say, I think I was really overthinking things today because I just could not articulate it in the way that I wanted. So I apologize if anything that I said was like a little off or anything like that. But hey, if I said anything super off, or if any of you just want to add your thoughts and help us complicate things, you can get in touch either by emailing us at everythingsbigger69@gmail.com or hitting us up on social media. We are BiggerPod on Twitter and Instagram. Or you could leave your comment in the form of a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts. Those ratings really help people find our podcast, so we would super appreciate those. And, they're another place for you to give us feedback.
I actually sustain myself off of reviews, like physically.
Oh, like that? Not oxygen.
Some
or
people eat
food.
I review,
Wow.
or I consume
You
reviews.
yes. You need
Yes,
reviews.
yes.
You're like Tinkerbell.
Yes.
You need reviews to
Yes.
live.
So, dear listeners, help me live.
Oh wow, that just got real intense and guilt trippy. Well, you don't have to just listen on Apple Podcasts. You can also listen on Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get podcasts.
Wherever fine podcasts are sold.
Yeah, but it's not sold because we're not Luminary. I don't think you should have to pay for podcasts, at least at this point in our culture right now.
We'll hear more about that soon.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say. We
Yeah.
have other notes. I'm skipping them all. I think that's.
This episode was recorded at the YouTube space in New York City and produced by us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bo Méndez, Jackson Bird, those are our names. We
Yes.
don't have any extra people working on this show yet.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
And you know what? To close off, I guess, since we're talking about how like rap scrapple, is that the word?
Rap scrapple? That is not a word.
Ragtag. I know it's like
rap scrapple.
There's ragtag, and then there's another word that means like even more ragtag than ragtag.
I mean, maybe I have never heard of it.
Whatever. While we're talking about how ragtag this whole operation is, I just want to extend thanks to Jack Bird for being a co-host on this and for helping to build this thing.
Yeah, thanks to you for helping to build it too. Thanks for podcasting with me today.
Thank you for podcasting with me.